us today on this very first collaborative webinar, I was going
I like it.
to say, between myself, Liz Cook from One Seed, and Theme Rains from Synthesis, and Anthea Koulouris, naturopath extraordinaire. Super excited. Feel free to share your faces with us if you like to, but perhaps just keep your mics muted for now unless you have questions and things, just because there's going to be a stack of us and it could get very noisy, like, a gaggle of women sometimes. So thanks everyone who's joining us today. It can be sometimes tricky to do these things on a weekday evening, so we really, really appreciate it. We've got an hour today, so the way it's going to run is I'll give a quick introduction as to the topics we're talking about. The three of us will introduce ourselves, and then we'll go into the topics that we're going to discuss for the day. If you have questions, comments, thoughts that come up, there's a chat box. So if you just type in the chat, we're likely to answer them towards the end of the webinar so that we make sure we have time for everything. But if it seems really pertinent, one of us will also jump in and say, hey, here's a question, and we'll endeavour to answer it straight away. If it gets really hectic, we'll make sure that if we don't get to answer all your questions, we will answer it in a follow-up blog post that you'll get sent, or an email, or further webinar, or something else that will happen. So again, welcome everybody. Today's topic is about how to take care of your mental wellness by essentially looking at what you're using for cosmetics, skincare, personal care products, and lifestyle, and seeing how we can all do better to improve our mental health. I'll just hand over to Theme to do an acknowledgement of country now.
Thank you. It's great to be here with everyone tonight. So yeah, just wanted to begin by acknowledging the original custodians of the land upon which we all live, work, and play, and their continued care for land and sea. And I'm dialing in from the Bundjalung Nation tonight, and it's really great to be with you all.
Beautiful, thank you. And I'm coming to you from the land of the Kaurna people, from the Adelaide Plains.
And I should know, and I don't know, and Theme, don't get cross with me.
That's all right. I think you're in Gadigal country.
I think I am. I'm in Alexandria. Is that still inclusive?
I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure where the exact line is, but
I feel I am too. Cool. I recognize a lot of faces here. How lovely to see everyone.
That's awesome. So good. We've got an awesome number of people tonight. I'm just admitting them all, so if my eyes keep diverting.
Letting everyone in.
So many people, and it's such a big list. I was going to say, if I haven't admitted you, that's not right. I just have to admit everybody. All right. So let's get started. We'll just get everybody to introduce themselves. Perhaps we'll start with Anthea, and then we'll do Theme, and then I'll go last so I can keep my eyes on this admissions portal.
Great. Well, everybody, it's so nice to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I do recognize a lot of my clients there in the mix. I'm Anthea Koulouris. I've been a practicing naturopath and homeopath herbalist and an organic food, health and lifestyle educator for going into my third decade now of consulting. We also created a tea company. I have a lovely little apothecary in Paddington. That's where my clinic is. And when I was asked to join these two wonderful experts, it was music to my ears. And the reason being is I've always, for as long as I can remember, lived a very low tox lifestyle. It was the way we were raised. So that's my job, is to educate in this field as well. So I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. My name is Theme Rains. I'm the founder and formulator of Synthesis Organics. And yes, obviously I care very much about avoiding toxins, especially in skincare, so much so that I've ended up creating a whole company on the basis of it, to, shout it out from the rooftops and provide an alternative to those looking for a no or low tox lifestyle and all the benefits that come from that.
I'm Liz Cook. I'm going to be sort of hosting tonight. So if I seem like I'm taking over the boss role, it's not deliberate. It's been cast upon me. I don't want to be the boss. I'm the founder and CEO and perfumer at One Seed. We're a natural perfume company, and we've just hit 15 years and 1 month now, actually. So I can't believe that it's like a teenage person about to go into adulthood. It's kind of crazy. I have a massive passion. If anybody knows One Seed or knows what I do, I have a massive passion for transparency and educating people to understand more about what goes into the products that they use, and I guess calling out some of the BS that exists in our industry, both in the fragrance and cosmetics industry, because there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and I think traditionally fragrance has been like that, because it was kind of the realm of courts and kings, and everybody wanted it to be a little bit, untouchable. I don't think untouchable works for us anymore. I think we're in an era of education and information, and I think we all deserve to know exactly what's going on with the products we use and how it can impact us. Particularly for me, mental health is a really big focus, and I'm also a practicing functional nutritionist, and a big part of what I do is in the area of mental health, specifically around anxiety and depression. And so a lot of my research is into this particular topic that we're covering tonight, and how fragrance can impact our mental health, and also how natural ingredients can actually conversely make a big difference, a positive benefit on our health. Okay, so just going to go into the first topic. Okay, let's just go straight into talking about which chemicals are commonly used in beauty products. So, Theme, let's go over to you first. So, the way this is going to run tonight is we're going to sort of cover some topics about skincare, fragrance, and so on. And Anthea is going to particularly talk about things from a naturopathic perspective and about body systems, and also talk about tea, because Anthea has an incredible tea brand, and it's called Apotheca by Anthea. Yes, that's right. It did change. Apotheca by Anthea, which is absolutely beautiful and very deliberate in the ingredients she chooses, and she'll talk a bit more about tea and how choosing the right tea and the right types of tea and all of that can have a big impact as well. So it's going to be a really full, fleshed out sort of session. So, Theme, over to you to talk about the toxic chemicals that are commonly used in skincare, particularly, and why are they used, and which ones particularly are we looking at avoiding?
Yeah, so this is obviously a big topic, and I remember when I first went down the rabbit hole of it and started really researching the different ingredients that are commonly found in skincare and personal care, and I remember just completely in it for an entire weekend researching it all and uncovering that it was like there was this stockpile of chemicals left over after the world wars, and there was a need to find uses for them. Anyway, this is one of the theories. When we get into like, why are these chemicals used? Because obviously what we're talking about here is the hazardous effect that they can have on our well-being, our mental well-being, our body, etc., and the planet. So why were they ever used? Anyway, that's one theory, but the reality is that they're used commonly because they are cheap. They create a very consistent result. When you're dealing with nature, you don't get that same consistency, which I think is beautiful. But if you're perhaps a manufacturer and you want the same thing every time, the chemicals can seem very attractive. So there's all these practical reasons why skincare is full of so many toxic chemicals. And to talk about a few of them, we have a lot of chemicals that release formaldehyde, and that actually they're used commonly because they act as a preservative. We'll get into more that there's lots of natural alternatives to it, but there's formaldehydes, there's phthalates, there's parabens, there's tar, there's mineral oil. It sounds great, mineral oil, but actually the mineral oil is basically petroleum based. So it's like putting petrol on your skin. It's not at all good for you. There are like 700 new chemicals introduced into the market every year. So to run through all of them, not all of them end up in skincare, but very few of them are actually tested to be safe. And a lot of them are actually really hazardous. But yes, a lot of them have ended up in skincare. So yeah, I mean, there's like things which are akin to antifreeze, tar, lead, carcinogenics. The the list goes on and on and on of the chemicals that you can find commonly in skincare. And again, the reason why they're used is most often as preservatives, but also because of fragrance, which I'll let Liz get more into, and artificial colors make products look good, or the mineral oils and the paraffins, etc., because they give this lovely silky feel that, the skincare is so silky and great, but it's actually the petroleum derivatives in it that are giving it that silky kind of silicone feel. So yeah, I think then we've grown accustomed to personal care and skincare feeling a certain way. I remember when I was working with one of our distributors overseas, and they took me and they showed me a lot of how skincare is supposed to feel. And it's this, I can put it on straight away. And to me, it's like, I can tell straight away it's synthetic and it feels like, oh, but she's like, no, this is how skincare is supposed to feel. So we've grown accustomed en masse to certain textures, etc., which, yeah, then they just get repeated. So that's why the toxic chemicals just keep on appearing, because the end user experience, it often feels nice or smells nice or looks nice. But once you actually get more in touch with natural products, the things that look, smell, and feel nice that are chemical suddenly no longer seem to feel as nice. So yeah, that's what we hope to share with you, some of these alternatives later on.
I was going to say, it's like being lined in plastic. I shake someone's hand and I feel what feels like velvet, and you think for a second, gosh, you've got soft skin. I'm like, that's not what skin feels like. Yeah, so it doesn't really reveal the true nature of skin or the health of skin, but I know exactly what you mean, lined with plastic.
Yeah, and there's a little experiment you can do. So you get a teaspoon and you pump some of your skincare into the teaspoon and you put a flame underneath it, and it will go into just pure oil if it's all natural, etc. But if it's got all the chemicals in, it won't break down in the same way. You'll see the particles, etc. So
wow.
Yeah. And likewise, they don't break down in our body either.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's a good handy tip. I've never heard of that one. I thought you were going to say that if it's chemicals, it'll explode in like a blue smoke. Hey, that's another party. That's a party.
Yeah, we could have done that tonight.
I'll talk briefly about the fragrance chemicals, and I say briefly, and like it's actually, I say briefly to challenge myself. I don't know how to do briefly, but if I just talk about what are the common toxic chemicals found in commercial perfumes and why are they used, it's a massive, massive topic, this one, and but a lot of it is along the same lines as what Theme said. The number of chemicals that can be used in fragrance can be up to 3,000. So it's uncommon for 3,000 ingredients to be used in fragrances. Commonly, a commercial fragrance would be up to sort of anywhere from 50 to 200 separate ingredients. And we're talking about mostly synthetics. For anybody who's curious about, when I say commercial fragrances, what I'm specifically referring to is if you go to any of the big companies like Mecca, David Jones, Iconic, or anywhere else, Sephora, anywhere else you'd buy your higher end sort of fragrance products. That's what I'm talking about. So there are, of course, natural alternatives now. There's a handful of us around, but I'm not talking about that. I'm specifically talking about brands that you've known for quite some time, and most of us are buying and paying a mozza for them. So I'm not talking about cheap alternative products like, you know, the ones that you might find at it, like a cheap chemist knockoff, though they're included. But I'm specifically talking about all fragrances. So there's actually not a lot of difference, just so everybody understands, in the formulas between the high-end $400 a bottle versus the $20 chemist knockoff. The formulas are more or less the same. The difference is in the fact that the cheaper ones will use cheaper versions of the same synthetics, and perhaps need, you know, a few more ingredients to do the same job. But they're all still, everything that you'll find on the market is 99 to 100% synthetic. So we just need to understand that even if you're paying $400, you're not getting natural ingredients. The things that are most common are artificial fragrance, of course, and artificial fragrance, as I mentioned, can be up to, say, 200 ingredients in a formula, but the gamut is, you know, like 3,000 ingredients that can be used. So when you see the term fragrance, it's just a blanket term that refers to, it's like me saying the ingredient is chocolate cake. Like, chocolate cake is not an ingredient, it's an actual thing made up, like as in somebody's made it. So that's what fragrance is as well. It's a joining of a whole bunch of ingredients, and that's what's in the term fragrance. The other things that you'll commonly see is diethyl phthalate, or DEP. It's not always listed, but often what you'll see is the term alcohol denat, or denatured alcohol, or something like that, or it might say alcohol and in brackets DEP. Diethyl phthalate is, as you can hear, it's a phthalate, very, very commonly used. What it does is it makes the alcohol component undrinkable because it's a debittering agent. So it obviously has an important function. The problem, we'll get into in a minute, but the problem is that the phthalates are very, very strong endocrine disruptors, and the industry is allowed to just go ahead and pretty much do whatever it wants. So yes, there's function, but there's other ways to do things. Just adding essential oils will denature an alcohol anyway. Commonly, there's also things like propylene glycol, or other plasticizing, including other phthalates that will plasticize a formula to basically hold it to the skin for longer. So when you spray your perfume and you can smell it 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours later, that's because A, the nature of the synthetics, which don't break down in the environment, but moreover, it's the addition of these other phthalate and plasticizing ingredients that make sure that ingredient is not going anywhere. Commonly also there's UV stabilizers used, and that's to make sure that if a product sits on a shelf in sunlight for an extended period of time in a retailer, the color is the same, the fragrance is the same, etc. But the UV, we'll talk about in a second. I keep wanting to go into the why, but we will get to that bit. It's hard for me to say the what and not the why at the same time. There's tons of them. I will make sure that there's a list available when we send a follow-up email to everybody. We actually have a list of common toxic perfume ingredients. You can find that on the One Seed website as well, but it's a downloadable that'll tell you the common things that are found in perfume and why they're an issue. So that's a really handy sheet to have. Why can they do it? Like, the question people often say is, okay, that sounds all fine, but if it was toxic, why does the government allow it? Isn't there regulation that says you're not allowed to do it, etc.? The fragrance industry, and Theme, you can talk a bit more about this as it relates to the cosmetics industry, but the fragrance industry is highly unregulated. There are more regulations around font size than there are about what I can put in a perfume. And nobody's coming and knocking on my door to check that I'm putting in what I even say I'm putting in. That's how deregulated the industry is. There are also laws that protect companies that want to keep things a secret. So in actual fact, you don't need to disclose ingredients. So not only are there no laws that say what you really can't put in, there's also no laws to say you have to tell us what you do put in. So up to 50% of the ingredients that are found in a perfume bottle are not even listed. So if you're an ingredient reader, which I certainly am, and I'm sure that all of us three ladies are, you read everything in your shampoo and your food products and everything else. You flip around your perfume bottle packaging, you'll see on the back it has an ingredients label, but 50% of the ingredients are not listed. And what is listed are terms that you won't understand anyway, and often just allergen declarations. And so really it's like buying a chocolate cake and then just saying flour and sugar and some other stuff. It could be anything. So that's where the industry's at, and that's why they're getting away with it. Theme, do you want to talk briefly about the regulations in the cosmetics industry? Is it much the same?
Yeah, it's absolutely shocking how unregulated it truly is. Again, like you say, there's more. We're going for our GMP at the moment, which is an international cosmetics certification, like your quality of care for putting everything together. And you've got SOPs for everything, down to like how you wash your hands and how you open the windows, and there's like absolutely everything is checked and audited, etc. But what actually the actual ingredients are, they don't mind at all, really. Whereas we do have organic certification, and with organic certification they do come and audit and check that we are genuinely using organic products and the amount that we're declaring that we are. So it's really stringent, and that's why we went for organic certification, was to give peace of mind to people using our products, because I realize that the industry is completely unregulated and there is so much greenwashing. You can literally put anything in a bottle and put the ingredients on there, and then it's buyer beware, unless you've got some kind of third-party certification. Yeah.
Anthea, I'll throw it over to you. Can you talk a bit about what you see in practice and what you know from your research, what some of these chemicals are actually doing to our health, and specifically on the topic of mental health, which is what we're focusing on today? What are you seeing from a practical point of view is the impact, and what do you know to be the impact?
Sure. I'd like to say that off the get-go, people often focus on food and diet and exercise, but going as natural as possible and being low tox or low toxic chemicals is an equally important facet in holistic healing. So I put it on par as everything else. So it is something that I ask my clients, what products you use. But toxic chemicals have a profound impact on our nervous system and brain health. And I could dive deep into allergies and respiratory issues, and even as a carcinogen, because I see a lot of patients with cancer who want to position themselves into better health. But when it just comes to mood and mind health, one area is neurotransmitters that make us feel good, like serotonin and dopamine. The chemicals, toxic chemicals, interfere with neurotransmitter function, so a direct impact on mood regulation. And one thing that you've already mentioned is hormone disruption, so endocrine disrupting toxic chemicals which influence mood and mind. So mind, talking about cognition, focus, concentration, alertness, but also impacting other hormones like cortisol, thyroid, and we all know our reproductive hormones. And quite specific, when I see persistent, ongoing cognitive issues and mood and mind issues, I'm thinking, is there any kind of neurotoxicity? Because toxic chemicals can cause damage to the nervous system. And also, are they interfering with processes that we've talked about, neurotransmitters? And also, is the damage caused by oxidative stress? And that's where you find a lot of antioxidants in people's supplement boxes. People somehow are aware that we take antioxidants if we're exposed to a lot of chemicals, aging, stress. But it's looking at these ingredients, the chemicals in the products that we use, could be causing kind of some neurotoxicity. So no, do we use the products and just continue to take antioxidants? I don't think so. Reduce the low toxic chemicals first. And then there's neuroinflammation, where toxic chemicals can actually inflame nervous tissue. And I see a lot of chronic persistent inflammatory conditions. So I'm going to think not just inflammation on the skin or inflammation in our organs and tissues, but what about the nervous system and brain? And toxic to the blood-brain barrier, which is the barrier that is so protective to our brain, that toxic chemicals can compromise that integrity from substances going from our bloodstream to the brain. So much like leaky gut, an increased permeability. The other thing that I can think of is a disruption to energy production in our cells, specifically in the mitochondria. So when sometimes I ask people, are you mentally low in energy or you're physically low in energy? Both, obviously. So could it be that something else is drawing on your reserves? Is it just low iron? Probably not. Is it low B12? So it's looking at other causes that are sucking up energy. What else can I tell you? I think one of the biggest ones, and Liz and Thiem, you would know this so much, is the mimicking of natural hormones, particularly estrogen, and binding to estrogen receptors, which then creates the hormonal imbalance, which affects mood and mind, altering how hormones are metabolized, and so on and so on. That's just a tidbit. So, as I said to Liz, I could probably talk underwater about this topic, and so could so could Liz. But it is something. If I see persistent any symptom, but particularly when it comes to mind and mood, I'm going to consider this as a possibility. If someone is naturally inclined or low tox, I'm going to say, let's do a seasonal cleanse. We offer 4 seasonal health resets a year for this purpose, to pare back and replenish and build a foundation of health to draw on.
Can I just get you to swing back to something you mentioned before? And this may be something new to a lot of people, though you did say a lot of your clients are on today's webinar, which is awesome. They know about it, but it's something a little, like most of us know about leaky gut. We've heard about leaky gut, but you referred earlier to things crossing the blood-brain barrier. Can you refer a little bit back to that about leaky brain and how this type of chemical onslaught might be impacting what we call leaky brain, and what that is first for people who might not understand?
They call it blood-brain barrier. So just like the membrane in our gut, there is a membrane between our brain and our bloodstream before nutrients or chemicals come through. And so the integrity of that barrier can be highly compromised, much like our gut barrier, which can be compromised not just by opportunistic bacteria, pathogens, yeast, parasites, viruses, but also toxic chemicals in the foods that we eat. But whatever we apply on our skin, or whatever we smell, whatever we're consuming that is in our environment enters our bloodstream the same way as we would eat it or drink it, for that matter. And it's when those toxic chemicals then start to impact directly on the brain, and that's what we call neuroinflammation or inflammation of the brain, just because they've broken the integrity. So all of a sudden you're getting an influx of material that doesn't belong there. Same within our gut, through our gut barrier, of absorbing not only undigested food, digested food, and microbial content that doesn't belong in the bloodstream.
I think one of the things to note as well, as practitioners, we hear about this often, but I think that the information hasn't yet flown out. What's the word I'm looking for? Flooded out? I don't know what I'm trying to say, to the mainstream, which is that for the most part, mental health things are not just what we understand to be like a chemical imbalance, but the new theory of mental health issues is about inflammation. So the inflammation piece is a really important thing to understand. And I think when we're talking about, it may seem almost um, in some way uh, lazy or disrespectful to think that if you have a mental health issue, and we're talking about anxiety, depression, anything that can cause you kind of a dysregulation of your emotions, nervous system, etc., you may think, oh, it's a bit of moisturizer and a bit of fragrance. How can it possibly be affecting me? But if you think about all the avenues for its impact that Anthea is talking about, we're talking about inflammation in the body. We're talking about displacing hormones. We're talking about um, overloading hormones. We're talking about affecting neurotransmitters. And there's so many pathways that these chemicals get into our bodies and into our bloodstream and affect us on so many levels, down to even kidneys, thyroid, as well. You know, we often talk about reproductive system, and I think when we talk about endocrine dysregulation or hormones, people are thinking, well, sex hormones. Of course, if I can't get pregnant or I have difficult menopause. But as Anthea mentioned, it's much more than that. It's hormones like cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and there's 30 odd, however many there are hormones in the body. Not all of them are sex hormones, so they have a massive, massive impact on mental health and how we feel our mood and our emotions more than anybody's really giving any weight to. Would you agree with that, Anthea?
Completely. I think what people are missing is the cumulative effect, and this is where the research needs to go, is the amount of chemicals that we're exposed to within our homes, outside of our homes. But what we can control is what we choose to use, what we choose to eat, what we choose to drink. So that's why it's like skincare. Sometimes we do audits of what people use, things like beauty products, personal care products, and I just look at this list like this, and I just think straight away I need to just replace and then detox their organs and their systems, and then replenish with what should be present, because people aren't treating their skin as an organ of health, just like their liver, just like their brain, like their nervous system. It's monumental and quite bonkers, and it's like such an essential aspect of holistic healing. It is so undervalued. It's like the last thing. Yet everyone's trying to avoid junk food. It's like, well, what really is the difference? Is it not the same thing? What you put on here is junk food. It's already entered your bloodstream. What you smell, same.
I remember reading about this study that was done. It was in America, but that women on average absorb up to 2 kilograms of personal care products per year. So 2 kilograms. So we're talking about avoiding junk food and watching our weight and all of that. It's 2 kilograms of various different chemical cocktails, as you say, like the total cocktail. Like, oh, just one little perfume here or one little toxic shampoo here or whatever, but it's like all of them. Imagine that over a whole year, 2 kilograms worth of products that are mostly made up of a huge array of different chemicals, and you're putting that into your body and enforcing your immune system and your nervous everything to process it. And because many of them are actually designed to not break down, a lot of that stays in the body. And then you consider, as you say, it's like, well, if you instead used fragrances and personal care, etc., that was just all completely natural and organic and full of nutrients and life force and vitamins and minerals, it's like it's just passing straight through your body over those 2 years, but it's giving you energy and antioxidants and nutrients along the way and helping your body function at its best and look after itself. So it's like, each of us has that choice of like, what are those 2 kilograms going to be each year? And of course, that's a generalization. That was a study of American women, and some will have more than that, some will have less, but it's still a monumental amount of volume that we have to process through our body.
And when I think of mental health and mood, I see cancer. I'm not allowed to treat cancer as a naturopath. I see cancer patients with cancer. And for my job is always about positioning one to have the optimal mind and body and the foundations to innately heal. And I think of that and its impact on mood and mind, mental health. And it's only sometimes people come to this place of low tox when they've been diagnosed with a chronic illness. What else can I do? And I just think, that's why we're in this space of preventative medicine. Prevention is key. Build your resources, because rainy days do come. Like, you want to be in a position where you can prevent disease and feel optimal and heal and be able to combat infections or meet infections. Combat's not a very nice word. I hope everyone's getting the gist of what we're trying to say here.
I think it's really good. I want to just make a comment too when it comes to fragrance, and it seems, I think part of the reason why people are a little bit there's a few reasons people are a little bit resistant when it comes to fragrance. One is because fragrance seems like an ethereal thing. Like, it doesn't really seem like a thing. You spray it, it's gone. We don't feel it. We kind of sense it, and we see it in a bottle, but it feels like it's almost as intangible as air. And so people think, well, it's one little spray. It's sort of, but if you, number one, we talked about some of the chemicals that are in those fragrances, which wreak massive havoc on our bodies, but also, as has been talked about, it's the cumulative effect. And if you just count up the number of fragrance products you're exposed to in a day, if you literally get a piece of paper or on your phone, every time you smell something in your environment that's synthetic, write it down. And I'll start it off like this. Aside from get up in the morning, have a shower, it's your shower gel, it's your face cream, it's your perfume, all of that stuff. It's also your bin liner. How many of us are using like lemon scented bin liners, which, by the way, have no lemon, just to tell you a secret. And then it's your car air freshener, or the little dangly whatever you put in your car these days. It's then when you stop into the coffee shop, whatever they might be burning a candle or whatever, you go into the department store. Every second big name brand store now has scenting the bathrooms in public toilets, let alone the fragrances that your colleagues wear at work, which if you've got a big office, you may be exposed to 30, 40, 50 different perfumes there, and everything in between. If you shampoo your carpets, it's literally in everything. So, and that's not to say if you then come home and burn a candle and whatever else you do, like, you may have 10 to 50 touch points in your day that have fragrance in them. So it's not a little bit, it's a little bit a lot of the time. We could talk about this topic for hours, but let's switch it up a little bit and talk about theme. What do we need to look out for, and what do we need to be particularly mindful of when it comes to how do we know if a product is as good as it says it is, or is better for us and isn't going to have the I'm not going to say the impact on our mental health. That's not what I mean. Let's just take a second here and explain. We're not saying that these chemicals are causing a mental health issue. What we're saying is they're contributing to dysregulation of body systems and mood and everything else, and certainly contributing to what we're seeing as worsening mental health issues. So it's something to definitely look out for. We're not saying that burn a candle and cause yourself anxiety, though I have seen people with those types of reactions, but that's not what we're saying as a statement. So, Theme, do you want to talk about what to look out for when it comes to skincare? How do we find brands that are doing the right thing and know that we're not exposing ourselves to unnecessary synthetic chemicals in our products?
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure, one of the easiest ways is to look for organic certification, because although organic certification is not perfect, it is the best form of regulation that you have for skincare, because you do have auditors come in, they do check every single formula, they do come in. We've been randomly audited 3 times this year, as well as the actual yearly audit, where they check that you are genuinely using that amount of organic ingredients, as you said. So there is a real check and balance when you get an organic certification. And organic certifications are not all created equal either. Australian certification and the USDA are among some of the most stringent in the world, whereas some of the others, international ones, do still allow the presence of a lot of synthetics. So you have to be a little bit more wary of that. But there are apps that you can download these days, and you can to check certain chemicals. But when you start to read the back of bottles, but I mean, the reality is most of us are quite time poor, and being able to just like research all the different ingredients on the back of a bottle can be challenging. So another way is to look at the brand itself and look at the overall what they're presenting in terms of sustainability, in terms of ethics, where it's made, the story behind it, and that in itself can very quickly give you a good idea that you are buying a genuine product that's, you know, doing what it is claiming to do in terms of not using these toxic chemicals or synthetics. Unfortunately, yeah, supermarkets and a lot of places where we go to shop, the commercial brands will have like, you know, natural, and they'll have a green leaf on it, and it'll be like this shower gel that looks like it's going to take you into this amazing rainforest. So you do have to be very aware of branding and the marketing. And if a product is saying it's got natural ingredients in it, etc., you've always just got to look a little bit deeper, look behind the brand. And yeah, when you find a brand that you can trust, and you know, stick with it, because being a small business owner and you know, as there's you know, putting your passion into doing this and creating an alternative, it's really great to have the support of those who are genuinely looking for alternatives.
I think that's a really good tip there about finding companies that are values aligned, because it's like a minefield, and like most of us are thinking that's good because I want to do the right thing, but you know, short of like all 3 of us here probably have 20 plus years of research behind us, so that's why we know what we're doing and what we're looking for. But we can't expect the general consumer to have to invest the time in that. So I would absolutely agree. Find brands that you don't just like the look of, and you don't just like the founder. You know, she's really cool on Instagram. I love her bikini on Bondi Beach or whatever it is. It's got to be deeper. Well, I mean, if that's your values, that's cool. Support that. But if your values are to find something that's as close to nature as possible, that's, you know, where care is taken and the brand cares for your wellness as well as your beauty, then look for brands that talk about that on all facets of their marketing. So from their social media to their website to their packaging, if they're talking about being 100% natural, or they're fully disclosing what percentage of natural, and they make statements and very clearly defined statements about what their values are, they're brands that you know you can trust. Even if I was somebody who was just kind of getting into the world of natural skincare and fragrance, I would even be looking first for transparency if I wasn't quite sure. I would rather support a business that said we're 83% natural, even though that's not my jam and I would rather be 100% natural. But if I say I'm 83% natural and here's a full list of ingredients, and I won't mention them, but I can think of a large Australian skincare company that does exactly this, and I support their ethos. I don't buy their products because I want it to be as close to nature as is possible to manufacture. But I love the ethos of we're just going to tell you exactly what we do, so at least you've got the information. So as a starting point, I think that's a really good step. My massive bugbear is a little bit what you talked about, Theme. It's the marketing hype. I hate it when I was on Instagram before we stepped on here earlier, and it was a fragrance company, and somebody else was saying, "Oh, I love this fragrance company because of all these reasons." And the thing that people often say is they're vegan. This vegan fragrance company. Well, I hate to burst everybody's bubble, not everybody, because most of us know better. But vegan doesn't mean it comes from the plant. Like, we all have vegan friends who eat potato chips for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's not a healthy choice, or they just eat vegan, genetically modified meat substitutes. They're not eating apples and quinoa, and sometimes they are, but we all have friends that do that. So just because something's vegan doesn't mean it's better for you. In actual fact, I can buy engine degreaser and call it vegan, but if I spray that on myself as a perfume, does it make it better? Like, it doesn't have any animal products, but it's still completely full of synthetics. And also, I just noticed some questions or comments popping up in the chat, which is really good. So while we're sort of getting to the last 15 minutes, if you have a question or a comment, throw it in so we can get to it in the next sort of 7-8 minutes. But the marketing terms drive me nuts. Vegan does not mean natural, and I could think of 50 brands. I could walk into Priceline, Chemist Warehouse, David Jones, find a whole bunch of products that say vegan, and I wouldn't use them because they're still not using natural ingredients, and they're using a lot of synthetic ingredients. Vegan is a big one. Clean beauty is a term that I will sometimes use because it's used in the States, for example, and us entering the States, we have to use that terminology, but I hate it because clean beauty doesn't say anything either. So if I said we're a clean fragrance, what does it mean? There's actually not even a defined terminology for the term clean as it pertains to skincare or fragrance. So any company can make a list of what they don't include, and that's awesome. It's a really good starting point, but it's not an exhaustive list when you think that there's 3,000 potential chemicals in fragrance and 7,000 potential synthetic chemicals in skincare. It's not going to be an exhaustive list. So I would rather see a list of what we do include, not a list of what we don't. So clean is not the be all and end all. And it's other things like handmade. I mean, we're sort of a little bit more educated with that, but look for terms that don't really say what a company's values. They do say what a company's values are, but if you're looking for something that's 100% natural or as close to nature as possible, look for that as a term as opposed to vegan, cruelty-free, sustainable. Don't even get me started on the term sustainable. Again, I mean, there's perfume companies that say that they use sustainable ingredients, and that's awesome. But if I'm manufacturing a phthalate in a lab, I can manufacture that over and over and over and probably not use natural resources to do it. Tick for sustainability, cross for the impact on hormones, environment. I mean, phthalates are doing horrendous things in the environment. That's a chat for another day. But sustainability is not all the be all and end all either. So I'll just shut my lips now before I get carried away and take us through to 9 o'clock. Anything else to add before we go to Anthea? And Anthea's going to tell us about why it's really important in terms of mental health to look at the lower tox, no tox options. Anything else to add before we do that?
I think for me, what is my greatest bugbear is that try and find the ingredients of anything on anyone's website. I'm amazed. And that's when they lose me and I get very suspicious. I take my clients on this journey. Like, we'll type in, product that they're using, try and find the ingredients. Because if a product is as true as they market, they're going to put the ingredients front and center, or to be one click away, because they're going to highlight that that's something that they value and is really.
Absolutely. Anthea, do you want to just give us a 2 or 3 minute download? I know you've talked a lot about what the synthetic chemicals are, how they're potentially affecting our mental health in the different pathways. Talk about them. Why do you feel like it's important for people who are trying to maximize their mental wellness to take the low tox option?
Yeah. I think it's all about positioning, is how you position yourself to health and heal. You're either positioned to heal or not heal. And it's just an important facet, as I mentioned earlier, next to eating well, exercising, managing mood and mind, just, psychologically, psychotherapy, so on and so on. For me, it's first of all, it's mitigating immediate persistent symptoms. If someone is feeling fatigued, headachy, dizzy, a lot of people might think I'm low in iron. I'm also going to think, are they exposed to toxic chemicals? So imagine you're fatigued, you're dizzy, and you've got headaches and migraines. That greatly impacts mood and mind, right? Just the physical symptoms impact mood and mind. So I think it's just coming back to that positioning. Also, um, if you're consuming the things that you're consuming, whether we're eating them or applying them topically, then you're not getting what you should be getting. And as Theme has mentioned, and Liz has mentioned as well, there is beneficial impacts, not just when you apply a product or use it, or a product that smells ethereal or lovely. There's a healing aspect to the ingredients on a sensory, and it is very regulating to the nervous system. Can be a threat to my nervous system, which would then put me in anxiety and fear, is synthetic perfume. When someone comes into my clinic room and I don't have a window and they're wearing synthetic perfumes or artificial aftershave, I'm anxious. So to me, it's a threat to my nervous system. I'm as close as I can be to natural. So immediately, are you going to regulate your nervous system, put it into a place of safety? And in the world of psychotherapy, safety is the cure. And that's a big thing. Safety is the cure in the realm of psychotherapy, your nervous system. Or are you going to put it under threat, not just physiologically, chemically, but sensory, smell, taste, feel? I think that's it. I think for me, it's that the take-home message is you need to holistically heal persistent symptoms, disease, and stress. Position yourself better to do so.
I love that. I think that's what, especially you talking about the sense of safety. And I think when we, exactly what you say when we're talking about mental health, it's the feeling of safety as well as the actual surrounding ourselves with safe things, but it's the feeling of safety. I have exactly the same reaction. I have a teenage child who likes to spray synthetic chemicals in, like Lynx body spray, and I mean, you don't even get me started. It's like, your mum, natural perfumer, don't do this. But whenever she goes out, she's got to spray whatever her friends are wearing, and I say to her every time, you don't understand, it actually gives me actual anxiety. Like, that's my immediate reaction. I feel my heart kind of
Heart palpitations, heart racing.
abs pressure in my chest. I feel like my throat is closing and I have to get out of the room. Like, it's actually a proper, tangible, immediate reaction for me. So it absolutely makes a difference, even just that one thing, to not spray that for the immediate mental health impact is a huge thing. We've got 6 minutes left. I'm just mindful of the time because we promised everyone would be an hour. I like the comment that came up in the chat from Elliot, which is Oreos are vegan. That's the salad, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's awesome. Yes, we all know vegans who eat packets of Oreos, so that's good. And also not vegans who eat packets of Oreos. So
Yes.
not me, but if I did eat Oreos, I'd probably eat a bag of them. So if you've got questions, type them in now because we've got 6 minutes. We'll only stop at the end for questions if there are some in the chat. So chuck them in now. We're just going to go briefly, myself and Theme, let's talk briefly before we go on to sharing our own. The three of us will share some techniques and how we support our own mental wellness. But Theme, can you just talk a little bit about the actual mental health or overall health benefits of using natural skincare even just from a chemistry point of view, or like Anthea is saying, from the, a safety signaling point of view? What's your take on that?
Sure. Yeah, and that's definitely how that was my inspiration for creating Synthesis, is to connect people back to the natural life force that's inherent in these incredible ingredients that come from amazing organic farms or wild crafted zones around the whole world. So through these, I mean, when I'm making products up or formulating, I just feel so incredibly grateful, because I realize that these ingredients have been grown in these pure fields or pure soil, and they've come into, and I'm working with them in the lab, and I'm like, these are just incredible, because through them we actually connect with these healing places on the planet. And it's very well studied now, the benefits of being in nature, and how when we connect back to nature, it regulates our nervous system, it regulates our blood pressure, it improves our mood, it helps us function better. It's like the benefits just go on and on and on. So yes, there's an opportunity with organic and natural products, not only to be avoiding all of these dysregulating chemicals, but actually to be connecting with life enhancing, natural, beautiful ingredients that literally boost our well-being as we engage them and connect with them. So yeah, there's so much I can talk about, and I'm loving getting into things like the neurocosmetic aspects of ingredients too. We work with pink rock rose, which has an effect on the body of biomimicking meditation. It's so cool. And it's as well as like opening the heart, and then it's got great skin radiance boosting too. I'm like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't we want to just all be using things like this all the time? It's like, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's my
And
thing.
that's well, I just think there's nothing better than being connected to nature, because it's where our bodies are most in harmony. It's what we come from. So I'm 100% with you on that thing. Anthony, I just realized we haven't even talked about tea today. So just remind me before we go, you're going to get 2 minutes. It's only 2 minutes. Oh, we're going to talk.
There's 2 questions here in the chat. Someone's asking about hair dyes. Are there any hair dyes that are safe to use? This is just my own personal experience, and this is where you choose your poison. With the people that I know in the industry, that all the hair dyes, that even the ones that are so-called natural, they've got a lot of synthetic chemicals in them. Henna, I suppose, good old-fashioned henna is as 100% as you can get, but even that, sometimes there's some toxic residue within henna. I don't know. There's a lot that's safe, but I also know people say that's not possible.
It's a big one, the hair dye thing. And just on that, I think as a general rule, the darker the hair dye, the more the toxic chemicals. But my understanding, and Theme, you might have something on this, but my understanding is that the darker the pigment, the higher the level of potential ingredients like lead and so on. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's probably a topic for another day. There's also a question here on shaving and about skin microbiome. It's probably a question not for today, just because of time constraints, and microbiome is a whole nother topic. But Anthea, do you want to just give a 30-second answer on how shaving?
Jojoba oil. Yeah, you can use that as a shaver. It glides. You want a glide. You want to catch the hair. So I think just a good organic jojoba oil.
That's great. Beautiful. Yes, and I was going to talk briefly, which I'll do for 10 seconds. I wonder if I can do that. Just in terms of natural extracts in fragrance, apart from connecting to nature, which is vitally important, it's also the impact on neurotransmitters and nerve cells, and even the opioid system that natural extracts can have. So we can actually see natural extracts helping with pain regulation And if you've got pain and mental health issues, which often go hand in hand, that can be a massive, massive help just to switch over to natural ingredients like essential oils and other natural extracts for its impact on your opioid system and other pain regulation systems. Guys, we're coming to the end. The three of us are just going to give you a tip or two on how we help to regulate our own mental health. Perhaps we'll go Anthea, then Theme, and then I'll finish, and then I'll just thank everybody for coming.
Great.
Thank you. For me, of course, I'm going to talk about tea because I'm a herbalist and a bit witchy poo, and I've been making teas for as long as I can recall. So the beautiful thing about teas and tisanes is they're infusions. You steep, slow, you pause from the moment that you start boiling water to steeping and infusing ingredients. Just make sure, like beauty, skincare, food products, tea and tisane ingredients can list like junk food packs as well. So most of them have natural flavors. Some have synthetic flavors. They shouldn't have any flavors whatsoever. They should just be raw, organic ingredients come together, hopefully by someone that knows what they're doing, a herbalist, that has a synergistic effect. But I think for me, cups of teas will bring me back into alignment as well as hydrate. And then you can use very specific ingredients for different therapeutic benefits from mood and mind to gut health. So I think that for me, it's just a moment to reflect, support, and self-care. It's making a cup of tea or tisane.
Can you just remind me of your tea brand, and also if they're looking, I don't know if you have your books open, but if they're looking for an amazing naturopath in Sydney, can you just remind us of your tea brand and your contact details?
The business name's Apotheca by Anthea, Anthia, and I'm in Sydney, in Paddington, soon to be in Surrey Hills for the first time in a long time. Just look me up on our website or Instagram, Anthea Colouris Naturopath, or Apotheca by Anthea. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthea. Theme.
Amazing. With wellness tip for mental well-being, I always go to aromatherapy as an aromatherapist, and essential oils are just such a quick way to shift our mood and sense of well-being, just breathing it in from a bottle. But as another go-to technique that just to remind everyone and to share is like, take your shoes off, go outside, stand on the earth barefoot, connect in with the healing current of the earth, allow your entire body to get rebalanced, or your electromagnetic fields. Put your hands up in the air. They've actually shown like just raising your hands above your head actually shifts our cortisol levels. It's crazy. And yeah, if you've got an essential oil, smell it as well. But otherwise, take in the sense of nature and just feel yourself as connected in with this beautiful earth, and allow the healing aspects of it to just come in and fill you up. I feel that is one of my biggest go-to, just remembering our interconnectedness. And yeah.
That's beautiful. Just before I share mine and then we call it a night, there is a question about natural makeup. Again, we don't quite have time to answer these, but yes, you've mentioned Inica, Eri Perez, and Eye of Taurus. So just again, there's somebody on Instagram I'd encourage you to follow. I think she's called Natural and Vibrant. She's a New Zealand girl who does a lot of exposés and recently has done one on foundation. So that's a really good go-to. But yes, there are forever chemicals in foundations, absolutely.
Same principles with makeup, with shaving cream, all of it. Same principles. Reading the ingredients, looking for certifications and the brand behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And my tip is, despite being a fragrance company, I'm going to give you my tip of taking time to not wear fragrance. So don't spray. Don't think just because you're heading out the door you have to wear perfume. Even as a perfumer, I actually have many days where I don't wear fragrance at all, and that especially applies to when I'm going to be in nature. I love forest bathing, and we did a podcast once on the benefits of forest bathing. It was one of my favorite podcast episodes ever. changes your neurotransmitters, can have massive impact on mental health. And that's just going to as wooded an area as you possibly can get, with as many species of trees as you can possibly get. And if all you've got is pine forests, that's awesome too. But there's massive research on how forest bathing, which is not taking off your clothes and having a bath in the forest, it's just immersing yourself, being fully present in a wooded area, how it can have a massive impact on your mental health. From a fragrance perspective, I just encourage people to have plenty of days where you wear nothing scented at all, so that, much like Theme said, you can actually connect in with your own environment. I love to just smell what's going on around me, and smell is a safety signaling part of our body's systems. So when we're smelling what's in our environment, it actually tells us whether we should feel safe or not. It's why when we smell smoke, it puts us on high alert. When we smell baby skin, we feel nurtured, our partner's skin, all of that. So lean into the smell of your environment, and have days where you don't use fragrance at all. Thanks, everybody. There's more questions coming through. I apologize that we're not going to take time to answer them today, but it may springboard us into another episode at some point. It's been amazing to have you all on today, and it's been a privilege for us to be able to speak to you and with you on this topic. We hope that you've found it helpful, and we'd love your feedback. If you want to shoot us an email or send us a message on socials and just say what takeaway you had from today, that would be amazing. But for now, goodbye from Anthea and Theme and myself, and take care, and we hope that your mental health gets better and better. Thanks, everybody.